The Great Deku Tree, like the Master Sword, the Triforce, and Death Mountain, is one of the Legend of Zelda's most iconic elements, recognizable even to non-fans of the series. Introduced in Ocarina of Time as the guardian of the Kokiri Forest, the Deku Tree has gone on to appear in multiple different games in the series, always as the same grandfatherly figure. But what actually is he, and how are his different iterations related to one another? The Great Deku Tree has appeared in 4 games in the series: Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, and the 2 Switch games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. This gives us 3 distinct versions of the character. He's introduced in Ocarina of Time, in the very first line of dialogue in the game no less, as the guardian spirit of Hyrule's forest. The Deku Tree is deeply rooted, first and last time I'll make that pun, in Japanese Shintoism. His role as the guardian spirit of the forest makes him similar to Ujigami, literally translating to clan deity, spirits believed to protect a particular land or family. This concept of Ujigami, or guardian spirits, is very common throughout the Zelda series. In Ocarina of Time alone, we meet Lord Jabu Jabu, the patron deity of the Zoras, and Volvagia, a slightly less benevolent spirit of fire. So while the Great Deku Tree is very much a real tree, he's something more divine. An earth spirit, a corporeal form of the essence of the forest. The word Deku refers to various different creatures in the Zelda series, like Deku Babas and Deku Scrubs, all of them connected with the forest and trees in some way. The name likely stems from Japanese Deku dolls, a form of puppets traditionally made from wood. Zelda's Deku creatures are like these Deku dolls brought to life, with the Great Deku Tree being the largest and most important of all. Ocarina of Time's Deku Tree holds the Kokiri Emerald, the spiritual stone of the forest, and one of 3 keys needed to unlock the Door of Time and enter the sacred realm where the omnipotent Triforce is hidden. Before the game's events, the Deku Tree is cursed by Ganondorf, who had attempted to extort the emerald from him. The game's first dungeon is inside the Deku Tree. With a little sword and a wooden shield, young Link must explore the hollow trunk and cavernous root system of the tree and purge the parasitic curse from within. This is revealed to be Goma, a gigantic arachnid who's been draining the Deku Tree's life force from deep below. But despite Link's success in destroying the parasite, the Deku Tree reveals that it is too late. He had been doomed since before Link began, and the guardian spirit withers and dies. Before his end, though, the Deku Tree reveals the other purpose behind asking Link to save him: to test the young hero's courage and to prepare him for the adventure ahead. Inside the Deku Tree isn't entirely organic. There are mechanisms like spike traps, switches and torches, and the root network winds through tunnels that appear to be man-made, with stone walls and metal bars. Perhaps this Deku Tree grew on top of an existing structure, one designed to test the future hero's courage and worthiness. The Great Deku Tree is something of a physical embodiment of the magical nature of Hyrule's forests. He created the Kokiri tribe and their guardian fairies, and they refer to him as their father. He calls the Kokiri the children of the forest, because they aren't true children, they're spirits of nature, like the tree itself. Deku sticks, said to come from branches of the tree, are magical in nature. If a butterfly touches the tip, it will transform into a fairy. Ocarina of Time's Link is, of course, not a Kokiri. He is a Hylian, who was placed in the Deku Tree's care during the Hyrulean Civil War which occurred before the game's events. The tree apparently agreed to take in the child because he could sense that he was a child of destiny, whose fate would affect the entire world, further emphasizing the Deku Tree's role not only as the guardian of the forest, but as a player on the world stage too, as the driving force behind Link's journey to awaken as the hero of time. The Deku Tree's role as the guardian spirit of the forest is most obvious when he isn't. During the adult era, after 7 years of his absence, Kokiri Forest is infested with monsters. It's unclear whether this is because he no longer exists to defend the forest from existing monsters, or if the state of the Kokiri Forest simply mirrors its main spirit, and as the Deku Tree withers, the forest withers with it. Regardless, this status is reversed after the completion of the Forest Temple. Because Link and Saria break the curse on this sacred place, the Deku Tree Sprout appears in the original Deku Tree's meadow. The Deku Tree Sprout appears to be something of a reincarnation of the original Deku Tree. Though he is a separate, newborn entity, he retains knowledge of the Hyrulean Civil War and Link's destiny. He does refer to the original Deku Tree in third person, however, maintaining a distinction between Tree Father and Tree Son. Regardless, the birth of a new Deku Tree to replace the old happens as soon as the Forest Temple is purged of its evil. A temple deeply connected to forest spirits which had been poisoned by Ganondorf's dark magic. With the Forest Temple restored, a fair wind blows on the Kokiri Forest, allowing magic and a new Deku Tree to flourish once more. This is enough to return the Kokiri's home to normal, once it is again guarded by a sacred tree. The second great Deku Tree in the Zelda series appears in The Wind Waker, a game set centuries after Ocarina of Time's adult ending. This is the timeline Link leaves at the end of the game, the one in which Ganon has been sealed in the Sacred Realm by the sages. This leads to the Era Without a Hero, where Ganon returns and is not stopped, causing the gods themselves to intervene and drown Hyrule in a great flood. Only Hyrule's mountaintops survived, their peaks becoming islands scattered across a new ocean. During Link's quest across the Great Sea, he encounters another version of the Great Deku Tree. The tree's figurine states that he is both an earth spirit and the guardian of the forest, exactly the same as the tree from Ocarina of Time. The Wind Waker's Deku Tree is notably smaller than in Ocarina of Time, sitting in the center of Forest Haven, which is itself a gigantic tree trunk. As the Wind Waker is set hundreds of years after Ocarina of Time's adult era, it would make sense for this Deku Tree to be the matured Deku Tree Sprout, something which is alluded to by Hyrule Historia and outright confirmed by Hyrule Encyclopedia. Over the centuries, the Sprout has grown into a full Deku Tree, though has not yet reached the colossal size of its predecessor. This Deku Tree speaks in ancient Hylian, the language from the era of the Hero of Time, and at first mistakes the Wind Waker's Link for the one from Ocarina of Time. And it's not just the Deku Tree. With the Forest Haven and the nearby Forbidden Woods, we're seeing the Kokiri Forest in the far future. The Koroks are directly descended from the Kokiri. They are the same spirits, the same children of the forest, only in new forms to better suit their lives on the Great Sea. Forest Haven's theme music is based on the theme of Kokiri Forest, and a Korok mentions that the nearby Forbidden Woods was once their home. Inside, we can find what appear to be the overgrown remains of the Kokiri's tree houses, and find the Kokiri crest marking the wooden doors. If the Forbidden Woods are what became of the Kokiri's village, then perhaps the great tree trunk which houses the grown Deku Tree Sprouts could be the remains of the original Deku Tree, now a colossal, dead husk, sheltering its descendant from the surrounding ocean. This would require the sprout to have moved inside the original Deku tree, which is somewhat contrived, but it would explain what Forest Haven actually is, and why the Wind Waker's Deku tree is housed within the trunk of an even larger tree. Regardless, much like the original Deku tree, the Wind Waker's iteration is shown to care for far more than just his own domain, and strives to protect the world at large. Every year, he sends his Koroks out across the Great Sea with the goal of planting seeds, hoping that, one day, new forests will grow and reclaim the land lost to the Great Flood. The Great Deku Tree's fate in Twilight Princess is unclear. The game takes place around the same time as the Wind Waker, but in an alternate timeline, after the Hero of Time changes history by warning Zelda about Ganondorf's betrayal, thereby avoiding the adult timeline entirely. In this child timeline, we see no sign of the Deku Tree, as the original tree remains dead, and no Deku Tree sprout arose to replace it. There is, however, Twilight Princess's Forest Temple, which appears to be built into the trunks of multiple colossal trees. It's possible that one or all of these trunks once belonged to the Deku Tree, as we can see the Kokiri crest on the temple's doors, but it remains deliberately ambiguous. These gigantic trees are similar to another non-Deku tree, the Great Tree from Skyward Sword. Set long before the events of Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword shows Hyrule's surface in its earliest state, and in the heart of the Faron Woods, we find a single, gargantuan tree. At first, the Great Tree seems very similar to the Great Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time. It towers over all others, and contains a dungeon-like interior. But like Twilight Princess's giant trees, the Great Tree shows no signs of sentience, making its relationship to the Deku Tree unclear. Trees with much stronger connections to the Deku trees are the Maku trees from the Oracle games. Each of the lands of Holodrum and Labyrinth have their own Maku tree, described in the game's manuals as guardian spirits of all of their respective lands, not just the forests. While the Maku trees are not related to the Deku tree, the similarities are obvious, even down to the Maku Sprout's appearance in Oracle of Ages. But despite this, these trees explicitly aren't Deku trees. They're very similar, yet entirely different guardian spirits. Oracle of Seasons also features Gnarled Root Dungeon, accessed by entering the mouth of a dead tree on an island. Gnarled Root Dungeon is something of a remake of Level 1, the first dungeon in the original Legend of Zelda, as Oracle of Seasons began development as a remake of the first game. And in this original, the resemblance to the Deku tree is even clearer, as the tree appears to have eyes. It never speaks, of course, as it appears to be dead, but the fact that its mouth serves as the entrance to a dungeon could have inspired Ocarina of Time's Great Deku Tree. Thousands and thousands of years after the events of all other games in the Zelda timeline, Breath of the Wild and its sequel Tears of the Kingdom take place. And here we find the third appearance of the Great Deku Tree, found in the heart of the Korok Forest in the north of Hyrule. His character profile in Tears of the Kingdom reads, Great Spirit of Korok Forest, a great tree spirit who has stood long vigil over Korok Forest and the sword that seals the darkness. An old friend of Princess Zelda and Link, he gently guided their efforts against the calamity. To the Koroks living in the forest, he is both a father figure and a home. Unlike the trees of Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker, which are directly related, this Deku tree appears to be a separate entity entirely. Instead of being based on something like an oak tree with a canopy of green leaves, this Deku tree is a cherry tree with wide branches covered in pink blossom. Cherry blossom trees are of course incredibly significant in Japanese culture, and in the world of Zelda too. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they have special significance in that they are where Satori, the Lord of the Mountain, can be found. Satori is another kind of guardian spirit, one said to watch over animals, and so embodies the essence of the wilderness. The decision to make the Great Deku Tree the largest cherry blossom tree in Hyrule further solidifies his place as a divine guardian of nature. While this version of the Deku Tree serves the same role as its predecessors, we're given some backstory on its origins in the Breath of the Wild lore book, Creating a Champion. The game's lead artist, Manabu Takehara, explained the history of the tree. The Master Sword has averted many calamities alongside the hero, and the pedestal that restores the sword from the damage it incurs in those battles is located in Korok Forest, which brims with the energy of the land. Perhaps by design of the goddess, beside the pedestal a single young cherry tree grew. The young tree bathed in the energy flowing through the land and, after an eternity had passed, became the guardian of the blade. How many sacred maidens and heroes opposing countless calamities has this ancient tree witnessed? This backstory gave birth to the Great Deku Tree's design. This old tree has lived for countless generations and is the largest Great Deku Tree of the series. It's interesting that this Deku Tree is said to have bathed in the energy flowing through the land. It's described similarly to ancient energy, the mysterious source of power for ancient Sheikah technology. Ancient furnaces, like those found near the tech labs, are said to gather massive amounts of energy which is pooled beneath the ground. Perhaps this energy, that which can restore the Master Sword and functioned as a source of the Great Deku Tree's power, is the very same ancient energy that powers the Guardians, Divine Beasts, and the Shrine of Resurrection. It could be instead that the energy of the Korok Forest is something else entirely, a more ethereal, spiritual energy of nature, but the fact that the Master Sword's pedestal can transport Link to the Trial of the Sword, a Sheikah-built illusory realm, strengthens the Korok Forest's connections to ancient energy. This Deku Tree could be something akin to a natural, organic ancient furnace, fueled by this mysterious, divine energy. This excerpt also notes that the exact origins of the Deku Tree are something of a mystery. It's suggested that the goddess Hylia played a role in seeding the tree, which is possible, but it could also just be the result of the Korok Forest's energy, the forest itself spawning its own guardian spirit. Notably, in the time of King Rauru, the time Zelda travels back to in Tears of the Kingdom, the Great Deku Tree doesn't appear to exist yet. We can't see its wide canopy of cherry blossom leaves in this wide shot of Hyrule, implying that it has not yet grown in the forest. If the Deku Tree had existed during this time, then Zelda would surely have visited it for advice and guidance, but she doesn't, placing this Deku Tree's birth at some time after the Imprisoning War and the founding of this Kingdom of Hyrule. Perhaps sacred forests need to reach some sort of critical mass before a guardian spirit can take root. Or perhaps the Deku Tree will grow as the result of some other, unseen mechanism. Regardless, Tears of the Kingdom shows the extent of the bond between this Deku Tree and his children, the Koroks. When Link enters the forest through the depths, he finds the Deku Tree has been cursed, complaining about his stomach. This is revealed to be the work of a phantom Ganon, who pollutes the tree's insides with gloom, and this affliction has a profound effect on the forest as a whole. The surrounding area is choked in a purple haze, and the Koroks are mute, apparently stupefied by the condition of their father. Once again, this highlights how the Deku Tree is more than just a wise advisor figure. He is the embodiment of the forest itself, and his condition is mirrored by the woods surrounding him. Despite only appearing in 4 games, the Great Deku Tree is among the Zelda series' most iconic elements. He not only serves as a guide for Link, a wise, grandfatherly figure who pushes the hero towards adventure, He embodies the magical nature of Hyrule itself. When looking to the future of the series, though his back-to-back features in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom make it seem likely that he'll be absent in whatever game comes next, it's difficult to imagine Zelda without him for long. With the upcoming Deku Tree LEGO set, as well as the Zelda movie, which I'd argue is almost certain to feature him in some way, I think the forest's guardian spirit will remain at the core of Zelda's identity. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like, or subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda content. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.